Hi there. So today I am looking at the FX9750G2 graphing calculator from Casio. It's a black and white calculator. It's menu operated just like all of Casio's graphing calculators. And I'm going to go, basically today we're going to look at two things. How to enter fractions, because they look a little different, even though we have a fraction button here, which you'll see over the A, B over C. It looks a little different on this calculator because it's one of the older models, and so it doesn't have standard form at this time. It's still linear, but I'll show you how to use that and how to go back and forth between a decimal, standard, and fraction, and then also how to use a formula to create a table of values. So I'm using an activity from our geometry with the FX9750G2 workbook. It's called Traveling the Circle. And we're basically looking at arc length. So we're going to be using some formulas. We're going to be collecting some data. This whole activity has, as you can see here, standards, has some prior uses, prior knowledge students need to know, circles. So you can look through that. I've attached the link to this activity below for you to use. It also comes with how-to steps. So what I'm showing you now, you can get some how-to steps. These steps, even though they right now are specific to the 9750G2, they actually work on all of Casio's graphing calculators because we basically have the same functionality, same operations, very intuitive, which is a nice thing. So even though I'm using this specific calculator, what I do can be done on the other graphing calculators as well. So I want to hop right into the activity and just talk about how do you use a formula to create a table of values. So here's some a table that the students are going to be collecting data for, and basically they're converting arc length measures to radian measures by taking the degree, the central angle of, and these are right here, and dividing by 360, which creates the radian. And they have to write it in fraction form or in decimal form. So one thing they could do is they could do each one separately. So let's just show you how to do that so you can see how to enter a fraction. So I'm going to go into Run Matrix. That's highlighted. I'm going to hit Execute, and you already see that I have a fraction up here. But if I wanted to say turn 30 degrees into its radian measure, I'm going to use this little ratio right here. And so I'm going to enter 30. So to do the fractional, the ratio, you're going to do 30, and you're going to hit this button. And instead of the bar that divides the numerator and the denominator, you get a little, I don't know what to call that, kind of a bracket that's indicating that this is a ratio. And then we're going to put the 360, and we're going to hit Execute. So that's all there really is to entering the ratio of the fraction. And so notice my answer is 1 over 12. So that's what I would write here, 1 over 12. And then if I want to get the decimal form, the equivalent decimal of that, all I have to do then is to use this button right here, the fraction to decimal button, and now I have the decimal form. So students could do that all one at a time, and that's great. Or they could also use the formula and enter the formula as the table. So let's go back to our menu and just show you how you could do that. So if I go into this table here, so we're going to arrow down to the table menu, hit Execute, and let's delete the equations that are there right now. So notice I can hit delete under F2, and then F1 says, are you sure you want to do that? Yes. So let's go back to F1. Well, what is our equation? Well, it's this ratio right here. And the numbers that are being replaced are where theta is. All right, so now that I've cleared those out, I want to enter the function. So what is the function? Well, it's this one right here, x divided by 360. So we're gonna, and x is representing theta here. So x divided by 360, that is our function that we're using to create the table of values. And so our input is the central angle measures, right? So those are our x values. So when I hit Execute, that sets the table function up. So now when I go to table, I'm going to choose F6, and it's doing, you'll notice as it creates a table of values automatically, and I want to go back and set the values that I need. So notice here is this set. So I only want, if you look at my measures here in this table, I want starting at 30, and it looks like I'm going up by 15 degrees till I get to 270. So when we go to set, we can actually set that up. So I want you to start at 30, So that's my first value here. And I want you, and so hit execute. And I want it to end at my last value, which is 270. And here's where step is really nice. I don't want it to step by 1, which is its default. I want to step by, if we look, 30 plus 15, 45 plus 15, so 15. So it's only then going to give me these specific values. So when I hit execute, I'm set. Now when I look at the table, I see those exact values. So you'll see that answer we got when we put it in. So students could now fill this in with their decimal values, and then they could convert that back to, they could go back into their run menu, right? And let's just see how that works. So hit execute. If I put in, what was, I think the second one was 0.125, and if I hit FD, it turns it into its fraction. So very easy, lots of different ways to get you can create a table of values, get all of these in one shot, and then convert them back, or you could do it one at a time, lots of options. So the other thing, so the students are basically using this to help them. They're going to use this formula to help them figure out how far a arc has measured. So the diameter, if we look up the formula, 2 pi times radius. So if I am given a diameter, I'm going to be using half of that, right? And then the degree measures that we've calculated up here. And so the rest of this activity is really just doing calculations. And I did want to just point out how you to enter something like this, a mixed number. So if I have a mixed number, I'm still using this button, but I'm going to use it twice. So if I do 4, then this button, and then the 3/4, this now means I have whole number of 4 and then the fraction 3/4. When I hit execute, I get the mixed number 19/4. And if I hit the fraction button, I get the decimal equivalent. So you can enter mixed numbers as well using that button. I also want to show you where you can enter the pi symbol, because in this formula we want to use the exact measure, so pi, not an equivalent. So let me show you how to, enter this formula where you're using the pi. And the pi, you'll notice, is down here over the exponent number, button, and it's in yellow, meaning we'll have to hit shift first. So I can do 2, and if I want the pi in there, shift exponent, and then times what our radius is. So in this case, 36 diameter would mean an 18-inch radius, so times 18 times the fraction. So I need a 90-degree turn, so 90/360, which we would have already figured out in our calculator, but we're going to do it separately here. So 90, and I'm going to use that fraction button and execute, and I get my answer, and that's the distance traveled at a 90-degree turn, so 28 inches and 27 seconds for that tire. Okay, so that's what they're working on. They're working on lots of different examples of using arc length to figure out length, the distance. So this is like making a shelf, so we're really looking at just the length, the distance there. Running around a track, what's the perimeter, because it has a straight edge and curve, so how are you going to calculate that? It has to do with the radius. So a lot of calculations using the fractions and using this formula. So that's what we focused on here today, is how to use those buttons. So the fraction button, the pi button, how to use a formula in it to create a table of values.